All right, let's just dive right into this. We naturally assume the ultimate cure for financial stress is, well, just making more money. You get that promotion, you land a huge raise, you grow your business, and boom, your money problems just magically disappear, right? Well, in today's Explainer, we're breaking down a pretty massive misconception. We're looking at this fascinating, kind of terrifying phenomenon called the paycheck-to-paycheck paradox. Because as it turns out, earning more money absolutely does not automatically cure your financial struggles. In fact, for a lot of people, it actually amplifies them.
I mean, it completely defies standard logic, doesn't it? Why do so many high earners go broke? Now, looking at the data, a full 1/3 of American families pulling in over $100,000 a year say they are still struggling to pay their bills, and they literally have zero money left over for savings at the end of the month. If the raw math says they have more than enough to comfortably survive, what exactly is draining their bank accounts?
And the severity of this problem is honestly staggering. A recent report from SoFi reveals that 60% of people earning $200,000 or more report feeling like they are just in survival mode. Just think about that for a second. Even with a top-tier, top percentile income, the vast majority are still running out of cash. They're feeling the exact same financial anxiety, that exact same pit in their stomach as someone making a fraction of their salary. No way, right?
So what is the root cause here? Well, it boils down to toxic money habits. It's like a leaky bucket, really. It's spending without a plan, or that daily artisanal coffee and, 3 forgotten streaming subscriptions you literally never watch silently drain hundreds of dollars a month. It's living to impress others, financing expensive cars or luxury clothes just to look successful to people you barely even know. It's completely ignoring emergency savings and just crossing your fingers, relying on high-interest credit cards when the car transmission inevitably blows up. And strangely enough, it's sometimes even hoarding money out of pure anxiety rather than actually giving those dollars a real working purpose.
The real engine behind this silent wealth killer is something known as lifestyle creep. Some people call it lifestyle inflation. Basically, this happens when your spending increases at the exact same pace, or sometimes even faster than your income. So you get that big raise, and instantly you upgrade your car. You start dining out at way more expensive restaurants, and suddenly, things that used to be a rare luxury completely mutate into perceived daily needs. Your standard of living rises and just completely swallows up your brand new income. And you know what the fuel for lifestyle creep usually is? It's this exact phrase, "I work hard, I deserve this." It's such an incredibly common emotional justification. And hey, it feels great in the moment to reward yourself. But this mindset is exactly what fuels the inflation of your lifestyle and traps you in a cycle of stress. Because instead of your raise buying you true financial security and peace of mind, it really just buys you significantly higher monthly payments and way more anxiety trying to maintain that elevated lifestyle.
Let's look at how this builds into an absolute mathematical nightmare. Imagine you get a raise, right? And it gives you an extra $1,500 a month. Amazing. But because of lifestyle creep, you take on a new car payment, maybe move into a much more expensive apartment, and your new expenses jump by $3,000 a month. So by the end of the year, you haven't built any wealth. You've actually just bought yourself $18,000 in brand new debt. You are mathematically way worse off than you were before you even got the raise.
Which brings us to a really foundational truth. Personal finance is exactly that. It's personal, the messy, emotional, human psychology side of things, and it is finance, the cold, hard math. And when it comes to how we should actually manage these two distinct sides of the coin, there is a massive ongoing debate in the financial world between two very different philosophies.
On one side of the ring, we've got Dave Ramsey's philosophy. His approach is highly behavior-focused. It's all about intense, personal discipline, avoiding debt at absolutely all costs, and following these simple, rigid baby steps. Now, on the other side, you have the Bogleheads. These are followers of Vanguard founder John Bogle, and they focus almost entirely on the math. Their whole strategy is about minimizing fees, taking human emotion completely out of the equation, and just passively buying low-cost index funds that simply track the broader market.
So who's actually right here? Well, a lot of experts argue that the behavioral side of personal finance is arguably 90% of the equation, while the math is only 10%. Because, let's be honest, changing human behavior is incredibly difficult. And this is exactly why Ramsey's zero-nuance framework provides the exact behavioral guardrails that millions of people desperately need. By removing all the gray areas, it literally forces people to stop overspending and finally tackle that suffocating debt.
But where this behavior-first approach really crashes into the cold, hard math is when we start talking about investing. See, Dave Ramsey often recommends using a financial advisor to find actively managed mutual funds that will consistently outpace the S&P 500 index over a 10-year period, which sounds absolutely amazing in theory, right? Just find a really smart advisor, pick the best funds, and beat the market. But we have to ask, can an advisor actually do this consistently? Well, the math from the SPIVA data is honestly brutal for active managers. Over a 20-year span, 92% of actively managed funds actually underperformed the index. Only 8% beat it. And guys, that is before you even factor in taxes and the advisor's hefty management fees. This matters so much to your wallet because the math overwhelmingly proves that just blindly picking a low-cost index fund will almost always beat paying an expensive expert to try and cherry-pick winning stock. And hey, if you think you can just pick last year's winning fund to get ahead, think again. The whole myth of performance persistence is exactly that. It's a myth. If an actively managed fund is in the top 25% of performers today, the chance it actually stays there after 3 to 5 years drops to just 24%. Statistically speaking, by sheer random luck, 25% of funds should remain in that top quartile anyway. So this pretty much proves that past performance is largely just luck, not some guarantee of future brilliance. Honestly, the only performance that reliably persists long-term is poor performance.
Okay, so does this mean financial advisors are just completely useless? No, not at all. An advisor's true value is managing your behavior, not picking your stocks. A genuinely good advisor's real job is keeping you invested when the market drops 30% and you are totally panicking, convinced the sky is falling and you just want to sell everything. If they can step in and prevent you from making a massive, irreversible emotional mistake, they are absolutely worth every single penny of their fee.
So, if behavior is 90% of the game, and our natural, hardwired human instinct is to spend our raises, buy shiny things to impress people, and panic during market dips, how do we actually protect ourselves? How do we bypass our own worst habits without needing some kind of superhuman willpower? Well, the answer is incredibly actionable, and it will completely transform how you handle your money.
It is all about relying on systems over willpower. You have to automate your savings. By setting up a rigid, automated pipeline to an out-of-sight account, you are quite literally saving yourself from yourself before you can even touch the money. You just pick the goal, choose a separate account, and set up the automatic transfer. This means your investments and savings are pulled straight from your paycheck automatically. You don't have to wake up and decide to be disciplined every 2 weeks. The system just does it for you.
Now, you might be wondering, what's a good target? Well, whatever your income level happens to be, a fantastic goal is to automatically save 20% of your take-home pay. The fatal flaw so many people make is waiting until the end of the month to see what's left to save. But spoiler alert, there is almost never anything left. By automating that 20% right up front, you artificially restrict your cash flow. You're forcing yourself to adjust your lifestyle to live on the remaining 80%. It's a total game changer.
And the absolute most critical place to direct those first automated dollars is your emergency fund. This is the crucial first step to finally stopping that paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. But here is the real psychological trick. You want to keep it in a separate, high-yield account to create just a little bit of friction. When it's out of sight and slightly harder to access, you are way less likely to impulsively spend it on non-emergencies. You just slowly build it up until you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses tucked away. That way, when real life inevitably happens, you don't end up swiping a credit card.
Ultimately, it all comes down to this. Consistency almost always beats perfection. True financial freedom isn't created by landing one lucky crypto investment or starting some viral side hustle. It is built from hundreds of small, honestly kind of boring automated habits that are just repeated over and years. It's saving a little bit, living slightly below your means, and just letting compound interest do all the heavy lifting in the background while you actually go out and live your life.
I want to leave you with this final, really honest question to ask yourself today. Are you making financial decisions to build your own wealth, or are you secretly just trying to impress others? Remember, looking rich and actually becoming financially secure are two very, very different things. So take control, automate your habits, and build the future you actually deserve. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparks some great conversations and some immediate action for your own financial journey.